Welcome to Uncle Nene's Nerdcast. I'm your host, Nathan Fletcher, aka Uncle Nene. I am very happy to have our guest today. It's going to be a fun show for filmmakers, for people who love sci fi movies, people who want to know what it's like to own your own management, production company, all that stuff. It is really going to be an incredible story. Welcome to the show, Dan DeFilippo.
Thank you for having
Glad
me.
Glad to have you here, Dan. It's going to be a fun show. I grew up in the production business. Started working for a production company when I was 16,
Oh
and
wow.
so I love production, and so this is going to be fun. As you know, you're a producer and a filmmaker. It'll be a lot of fun. Um, Most people in the sci-fi world kind of know you from Shockwave, Dark Side, an independent project, and we're going to get into the details of that later.
Sure.
But I first wanted to start off just, were you a big sci-fi fantasy fan when you were a kid, or was there anything that kind of grabbed you? Were you a Star Trek, Star Wars, anything in that vein that grabbed you when you were a kid that got you into doing sci-fi?
Yeah, I was a big Star Wars guy, as a kid, like collected all the toys and all that stuff. I wish I still had them, but I came home from college and my mom was like, I think those things are worth a lot of money now. And so, I basically sold it all for beer money. Um, but yeah, Star Wars is the one for me. And then, of course, during that time period, like when Empire came out and whatnot, we also had like the Indiana Jones thing going on, Goonies, and just these movies that took you out of your space of reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's
I
what,
very similar in my development as well.
right.
So yeah, so that's great. Um, One of the things I think is really interesting is, you started in your early career in the store department at Fireworks Pictures,
Mhm.
and worked on the big budget move, Wind Talkers.
Oh
What
yeah,
what did you take from those early days? Any kind of lessons you learned or stories you can share?
yeah. I mean, Fireworks was great because it was the story department, so it was all about writing and analyzing scripts and discussing would this work for what we're looking for with the internal producers and such. But I mean, honestly, what I learned from Wind Talkers was do not spend $115 million on a movie.
That's
I
great.
I said to my two bosses, the producers of the project, and one of their husbands actually wrote the movie as well.
Okay.
So they made out like bandits, regardless.
Yeah.
But I was like, we could have made 10, $15 million movies for this budget.
Yeah.
And that was a little insult to injury because it was after the movie opened where it only made like 17 million opening weekend.
Yeah.
And it just clicked to me that like this math doesn't work when it doesn't work in a big way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I,
Um,
I would imagine that may have gotten reinforced for you when you started to work at William Morris. I understand you worked both in New York and LA.
yeah,
Seeing the agency side of the business up close and personal, did that maybe reinforce your kind of indie filmmaker core?
it did because there are a lot of politics in those places. And I mean, I used to deal with the biggest filmmakers in the business. Like I worked for the agent who represented Tarantino and the guys from South Park, and Gus Van Sant was on the phone every day. You know what I mean? So I would talk with these people, and they had the same take. How hard it is to like do things in the traditional studio way because of all the politics and because of all the different hoops you have to jump into. And then, I'm sitting in LA and, surfing and hanging out and working for these crazy people. And that's when the tax incentives were initiated in New York. And I'm from New York. And I said, there's going to be a renaissance of film in New York. So I used the agency to transfer to our New York office, the William Morris New York office, and started figuring out how to get into that, to leave the big agency, big studio, big picture world to make stuff the way I wanted to make it, you know,
That's great.
at price points where you could actually make money, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's great. That's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um, was there, I think of, I grew up starting in video production. And so
Uh-huh.
we shot on like 3/4 inch SP, and then we upgraded to beta, and it was a big deal, and then
It was a
digi
big
beta.
deal.
But, we always wanted to, and then we started working on like shooting with 16 millimeter film, and then, the Big Daddy Super 35 millimeter.
Yep.
And I remember the first project that it was a music video we shot on 35 millimeter film, and I felt like I was a young kid in my early 20s. I felt like, oh, I made it. I'm shooting on film like a real grown up. Did you ever have one of those moments, as you were starting off, where you're like felt like, oh my god, this is a new phase for me, or this is something I've been hoping to do, and I'm finally here.
Um, not in particular, because it's particularly in LA. It was just all around you all the time, every second of every day. You know,
Yeah,
so it becomes a norm very quickly.
yeah, it's very
You know,
different when you're trying to do production in Texas. It's a different world. Shooting on film is not the norm
right?
when
Yeah.
you're starting. Yeah.
But even now, it's like everything's digital, and for the death and life of John F. Donovan, that was shot on 35 and 75 film.
Wow.
So I produced the New York leg of that involved aerials with helicopters and such. And just finding those cameras now, there's like
Yeah.
7 of them in the country,
Wow.
particularly for 75. So it became more of not like an aha moment, more like a how the hell do we do this moment? You know what I mean?
Right.
And then there are no film labs left on the East Coast to process that. So
Yeah.
like that footage had to exist in my offices up in Times Square for like 2 days before we could send somebody with all of it, literally carrying it because it's
Yep.
precious now, you know?
Yeah.
It was somewhere in, I think it was North Carolina or something,
Yeah.
to where there was an actual lab, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. One of my second job was in Corpus Christi, Texas, working for the family of
Oh,
Selena. I don't know if you're familiar with the Spanish singer Selena that got
yeah, sure.
killed, and yeah, so
And
her
again,
family.
I've surfed Corpus Christi.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. So I lived down there working for her family, and we did
Huh.
music videos, TV shows, and we would shoot all the music videos in on film. And
Hmm.
so it was a big part of the process for us. Was I would fly the film up to Dallas because that was the nearest processing
Yep.
and transfer place, and then we'd sit in the room and color it all day, and it was like a whole thing. And then
The whole thing, yeah.
yeah, it was a whole thing. And I tell when I talk to younger folks who are familiar with the digital world only about that whole process, they're just blown away. They can't even imagine. You had to really trust your DP back
Yeah.
then because you
Oh,
had no idea what you were getting. You had no idea what you were
no
getting in the
idea.
field. You were
Exactly.
just having it on faith.
Right.
And people today they expect to be able to see exactly what they're going to get and on location, and so it's fascinating to see that kind of transition.
Well, even like the edit, it's called cutting because you used to use razor blades,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
splice frames together,
Yeah.
which is
Incredible.
like would blow a young kid's mind today, I
Yeah.
think,
Well, even after that, but before digital, when you were editing tape to tape, you had a
Oh, right.
switcher, and you edited linearly. You started at the beginning of the project, and you went to the end, and that's how you edited. So you really had to have, I think, the one benefit to it. The drawbacks were when you needed to change, but the
Right.
benefit to it was you had to have a vision. you had to have a vision. You had
Yeah.
to know how
Prior.
you wanted it to go.
Yeah.
There was not just, well, let me just try a bunch of different stuff. It was like, no, this is how we're going to put this together.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. That's
Um,
good. Storyboards come into play there.
right, right, absolutely.
Free thinking, which
Well,
is
one of the
which
things it did
is
for me is because I really was drawn into editing and I started editing a lot,
Mhm.
is, we'd edit the audio first and then you'd go back and you'd put the video onto it a lot of times. And so it started making me think along the lines of where are all the pieces where someone's going to talk or I'm going to have some audio to. I've got to do that first. And so you really would have that kind of think of building something linear like that.
That's interesting. So you backed into it,
Right. Yeah,
into the image.
right. You'd be
Huh.
like, okay, this is all B-roll.
Right.
I'll ignore this. I'm gonna go back and paste the B-roll on top. But what are all the audio components that have to happen first? And
Interesting.
yeah, I think it helped me as a producer because I would start to think about, okay, where's all the sound on tape? Where are all the talking parts? And you start to think about that. But
Right. Yeah.
um, so let's get into Shockwave Dark Side. I think it's
Sure.
fascinating. For anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a 2014 very ambitious independent sci-fi film. I'm gonna play the trailer just for anyone who hasn't seen it. So it's about a minute 45.
Oh, cool. I
So
haven't
just
seen that in forever.
God was outlawed while the earth burned. All that is left of humanity are two warring tribes. We, the banished, were exiled to the moon after the water jihad. And now, they are coming here for the unpoisoned water of our ice, buried in the craters, deep beneath our cities and domes.
Status report. They keep buzzing the radar. I can't get a lock on anything.
All I know is that we all keep fighting over the same thing. Holes in the ground with inches of water in them. This war is getting meaner.
This place is not safe. The rescue point is our best option.
That's an awful lot of territory to cover. Unmapped. You sure we got enough air?
No one ever got saved by standing still, John. We need to fall back. Go! Go, go, go! I'm reading that we're not on lunar soil at all.
You have sold out everything you ever believed in! For what? Don't you see? Both sides are gonna need us alive. Because this could end the war.
so does that does that take you back?
Takes me back to a freezing sandpit in New England.
Oh wow, well I want to hear about that. Yeah, what was so? Tell me about first though. How did you get into that? How did you get drawn into doing that project? How did it come about?
So when I got back from LA to New York, I started something with a bunch of guys called the Evil City Film Festival, the East Village City Film Festival.
Okay,
And so the first year we, screened all these movies like in like back bar screening rooms and had this whole thing and people loved it. It was great. It was kind of like
great,
rock and roll meets film.
great.
I met this director who we screened his short film that was done really well, actually. It was like a World War II kind of like period piece. And so, we got to talking and he gave me this script and I dug it. So got together with him, went over the script a few times, notes. And then, I packaged it, found financing, and we did, everything cast, when I come on to produce something, it's like beginning to end kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, but it's wild, like Sonequa is like the captain of the Starship Enterprise now, May, who's in the film, was Psylocke in X-Men 3.
Yeah.
Bill Sage was great. Everybody knows Bill. Rich, he's in everything now, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like a really cool cast of characters that we got to work with, and they've all gone on to do like really big things. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
Star
found
Trek,
that really neat.
you know?
That's got to be a really neat thing to see. Can you and it's okay if you can't answer this, but can you answer what the budget was?
Oh, we made that movie for less than $1 million
Okay. Wow.
in 3D.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah,
incredible. So you talked about a New England sand pit. Tell me a little bit about that.
yeah. I was up in like on the Cape, so we needed a location that looked like the moon. You know,
Yeah.
we're like, garbage dump sandpit looks like the moon. you
That's
know,
great. That's
so
great.
like minimal lights. Like from a production standpoint, it was very hard, but also from a production standpoint, it's like because we were shooting in 3D, there was a lot of it was almost like like shooting a play,
Right.
and it's the moon, so there's not a lot of like crazy lighting going on. I
Yeah.
think we had like 3 lights for the
Yeah.
entire shoot.
I'm curious, all the graphics, eh, you know, was that something that was real costly for you, a big chunk of the budget or no?
No, I found these guys out in Minnesota, and I've actually used them on like 6 different movies to date. They're great,
Fantastic.
and they live in Minnesota, so it's like they're not living the cost of living in New York or LA,
Right.
or you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
they just love working on this stuff because it's coming from New York and it's coming from LA.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the effects, which by the way look so much better in 3D because they were created for 3D.
Oh, right.
So like when
Right.
you go to the 2D version, which is what most people see, it always kills me. I'm like, oh, like even that opening shot with the lunar base, right? When
Yeah.
those the cannons are firing towards us, right? And
Right.
explode here and here, like it all in 3D, it's like you're getting attacked,
Right.
everything just floats around you. It's like extraordinary.
And then you kind of gets flattened when it goes to
It
2D.
gets flattened in the 2D, yeah, which is a
Yeah.
bummer, but
Yeah.
now I own a 3D television, so that's cool.
One of the perks.
It was the only way to watch, cuts.
So, 10 years later,
Mhm.
how have, thinking about how the industry has changed
Oh my God.
from when you produced that, just, what's kind of jumps out at you is like one of the most transformative aspects to filmmaking that you didn't see coming.
Strikes. The actors strike, the writers strike, when IATSE almost striked,
Yeah.
it's crazy. The last like 2.5, 3 years, the industry has impaled itself on a strike blade,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's only starting to recover now. And
Yeah.
it's really so many people are struggling because of those strikes, It's like
Yeah. It was a 1-2 punch between the strikes and COVID. I felt like it's going to take some time. And then I always, what are your thoughts on? I worry about, is the younger generation going to have the love of the movies that maybe you and I did? Or are they so
well,
consumed by
I think they
social
will.
video, they don't care.
I think if we make really good movies, they will.
Right?
How do
That's
you
what I
not
say.
love E.T.? You know what I mean?
Right.
Right? But like another, I don't know, man. I know people love them. They make a lot of money, but like, I don't need to see another superhero movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not, I don't know. I'd rather see like an ET kind of movie, or I'm not saying go back to like doing Westerns, you know,
Yeah.
but like good cinema is good cinema. I
Yeah.
mean, we're working right now on the sequel to the Dementia 13 movie I did for Universal. Just finished the script, fished it out, bringing actors back, and it's so layered and cool, you know. Like it's kind of has like a what did somebody say after reading it? They were like, "This reminded me of watching Silence of the Lambs," like that kind
Oh,
of
that's
layered
great.
psychological good movie, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you did, of course, Dementia 13 is kind of classic Coppola horror. Then there's Catskill Park, which is
Uh-huh.
creature feature.
Yep.
How does that, producing horror fantasy, compare to sci-fi? Is there a difference in your mind, or is it not really matter, more just story? I'm curious, from your perspective, how it differs.
I mean, for me, producing is with anything really. We try to focus on story first, and then go and find the money, right?
Yeah.
And then once you're, for example, like Dementia 13, right? The studio is like, we know you're not going to be able to shoot this at a castle, and I'm like, oh, I'm shooting it at a castle, you know. So now we went and looked at like 100 castles on the East Coast, you know.
Wow.
Couldn't find one that would like fit into the budget, fit into the
Right.
schedule, fit in. Blah, blah, blah. We were coming home um, from Singer Castle up in the island region, up by Canada, basically.
Oh,
I
really?
said to one of my assistants, I'm like, why don't we find somebody who's trying to sell their castle? You know,
Ah, good.
that's right.
Yeah,
And
that's
she's
good.
like, that's a good idea. I'm like, by the time we got back to New York City, we had one. The castle we ended up shooting in, this guy Buddy Fletcher, some like huge Wall Street guy, left that castle in the middle of the night for some reason. Like his slippers when we went were still next to the bed. Totally creepy, you know. Like cans of he hadn't been there for like 5 years. Like cans of food still in the kitchen.
Wow.
They like left in a hurry via helicopter.
Wow.
I don't know why, but
Yeah.
but so after we found that location, now it's like dealing with the town, dealing with this, dealing with that, but always trying to stay true to the script and get everything that's in the script somehow onto film,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then obviously, adding the effects in the edit and such.
Yeah. Something that in sci-fi, fantasy, even creature feature horror, that
Mhm.
is an interesting challenge. I'm curious on your experience is how do you balance when you have a lot of effects heavy, genre, how do you balance creative vision with practical limitations? Because there is a balance there. How do you do that?
Well, you hire really good people.
Yeah.
But like you want to try to shoot everything practical and then enhance it with the effects. You know what I mean?
I agree completely. Yeah.
So like even the trailer for Catskill Park, when the cop guy, the state park ranger, it's like, did you guys hear that? And he gets wiped out by the creature,
Okay.
right? Like I
Yeah.
tackled him on set.
Oh, really? That's great.
Then, so the effects guys just like put me in orange tape and stuff, so they could track it.
Yeah.
And then his name is Conan, actually. And I just decked him like 9 times, and stuff. And that movie was crazy because talk about having to like think on your feet. We were up in New Hampshire for that film, Day 2, it snowed 3 feet.
Oh man.
It was a Halloween blizzard, right? There's no snow in the script.
Oh man.
So day 1, when they're like trekking into the woods to go camping, like I wrote it into the script for them to talk about. It's not going to snow. How could it snow? You know, to
Yeah.
set it up.
Oh, so
And
that later.
on day 2, when they're around the campfire, it just timed perfectly.
Wow.
They're
Well, you
they're-
got lucky as you were shooting linearly then.
for the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
The very beginning, yes. But like, it's crazy. But it was great because we had like a couple of condors and such, right?
Yeah.
To light up like the big
Yeah.
fields for the UFO and such.
Yeah.
And because of this, we only rented them for like 2 days. But because of the snow, they couldn't come get them, so we had them the whole shoot.
That's great.
I'm like, this is gold, man. This is amazing. We
Oh,
just
that's
saved like
phenomenal.
$40,000, guys. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Rig that,
Oh man, that's great. I love it when unplanned things work to your benefit. That's incredible.
Yeah, totally, man.
Um, do you feel? I was thinking about the way that graphics are going to change as AI becomes much more impactful. Every day they're releasing new capabilities, and I'm curious, how do you think the industry changes in the next 5 years because of AI's capabilities?
We were talking about this the other day. Excuse me. I think in the beginning, which is now, AI is a really good tool to set projects up. So, for example, we're working on this big historical TV series, and we're talking about doing a trailer using AI in order to set up the series.
Yes.
Series costs a lot of money.
Yes.
It's like medieval Italy. It's like the Joan of Arc of Italy. It's called Matilda. It's a real person who lived, But it's a giant scope,
Yep.
And it's like, in order to sell people on it and show them the vision, AI would be a very cheap way to do that.
Yes.
Now, do I want AI to like generate horses and, do it in some kind of computer land? No, I don't,
Right.
But in order to actually pitch the project, it's a good tool.
Yeah.
A lot of the AI stuff I've seen, you could tell it's AI. It's like
right. Yeah, it's not quite there, but if you extrapolate the rate of improvement, it will get to be undiscernible between AI and actual pretty quickly. But I love that you're doing it like that. I had a personal project just maybe 6 months ago, where I did the same thing. I did a trailer for a movie, an animated movie, and I used AI to transition my voice to various characters' voices.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
I changed, I recorded my voice saying the lines, and then I changed one to a woman, one to an old man. I changed it all.
Right.
I edited this trailer, and then I used AI to generate some animated stills, and then I made just to pitch the overall concept. If this is what we would want to do. So
yeah, like you use it as a tool.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And that's what I think people are really scared of. And I say, no, it's going to maybe rough in the beginning, but there is going to come a point where it's going to be the time of the storyteller. The storyteller cannot be faked. And that kind of visionary is going to be the hero at some point because of AI, because you've got that one person that doesn't have the tools to do, to pitch their show, and now they can,
exactly,
so yeah, I think it's going to work out.
I think so too. I mean, but a good example. Um, I'm doing the final edits on this book I have coming out, and this guy Vic, who's interested in investing in the sequel to the Dimension 13 movie. He has like this genius Wall Street kind of guy. He's like, just send me the PDF and I'll run it through AI and it'll find all the mistakes. And I'm like, this is not going to work because the way it's written is not it's not conventionally written. Like,
Right.
it's like running Clockwork Orange, the book,
Right.
through AI. AI would be like, none of this makes sense. If it's,
Right.
you know,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
at some point, like you need human eyeballs and the human brain to make sure it's right.
Yeah. Yeah. There is AI is not going to come up with, these kind of visionary filmmaker ideas like Oppenheimer or something like that. It's not going to be able to do that.
Oh
So
no, not at
that
all.
will become more important. I think for a lot of video production people who produce marketing videos, corporate videos, all of that work is going to be changed dramatically because if you just need some stock footage that you used to license,
Right.
but now you just need to prompt that, yeah, that the stock footage business may be impacted.
Yeah.
The commercial actor of nondescript, selling pharmacy drugs, that person,
You don't need them anymore.
right. You don't need
You
them
don't need to
anymore.
pay them residuals anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That you're
But if you're
absolutely
if
right.
you're trying to generate IP, that you own, you're still going to have to produce that. That is going to
Yeah,
be, yeah.
I
So,
agree. Like
yeah.
the short form stuff it's a blip. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah, I think story becomes a lot more important as we go forward. Story becomes, and I think, yeah, the selfie videos, all that stuff, that may become less important because it's going to be a commodity, easy to make, and
Right.
all of that. So, um, I did have a question. We're kind of going into that area, but advice for aspiring filmmakers. You have some experience, and I'm curious from your perspective.
Mhm.
What are some common mistakes that first-time filmmakers make when they're trying to produce their own short or their own feature? I'd love to get your experience.
Well, I've always said it's a mixture of the creative, but it's also a business. So you really need to learn the business if you want to make it in the business. Um, and it's funny because you know, LA is very different than New York in that regard, right?
How so?
So in New York, you have, these kids coming out of NYU and these film programs, $300,000 in debt.
Right.
They're like, I want to be a director.
Yeah.
Like, go get me a coffee, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just stop talking and listen
Yeah.
because you need to learn the business. Whereas
Yeah.
LA is more business oriented because it's the heart of the business.
Right.
So I think the most common mistake is these delusional aspirations
Hmm.
and thinking that like, oh, I went to NYU or I went to, even UCLA or USC and I'm going to graduate and be Steven Spielberg. It's like,
Right.
no, you're not. You're going to
Right.
go work 100 hours a week for some monster of a boss who's stressed out of their mind, for at
Yeah.
least 2 to 5 years before you even get a chance to have a break.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. I know, it's funny, what you said, because I was asked to go be on a panel at TCU, college here in Fort Worth, University, on their film school. And I could tell by the questions that I was being asked that there was an assumption from the students that they were going to graduate and they were going to produce and direct day one. And so I told them, I said, listen, I think it's great you're getting this education. I think it's amazing. That's great. You're going to learn a lot. But when you leave here, you're qualified to be a production assistant, which means you're going
Maybe.
to be getting somebody's you're going to be getting somebody's coffee.
Yeah.
And I go, and then you're going to meet people, and then you're going to be able to figure out which department you want to get mentored in, and then you
Yeah.
can go in that department and get mentored. But day one, you're a coffee monkey. That's what you're doing. And that's to the reality of it. But you're right. I think that that's what I think a lot of people don't understand. A lot of kids don't understand when they first get to school.
And it costs a lot of money. I mean, right before the pandemic, we were putting together a program called Onset, which essentially
Yes,
Learning.
it's a hands-on, affordable alternative, right, to traditional film programs. I read about that. Talk
Yeah.
about that more. Yeah.
Now the pandemic ruined this, by the way.
Oh,
We haven't gone through it. We
that's
had
horrible.
so the way the equation worked, we had 20 out of the 32 students we needed already. And a 2-year program, they actually make a feature film that I would then go sell with actual people who make real movies instead of
Wow.
making a short film.
Yeah.
And the kids, their tuition is treated as an investment in the movie.
Okay. Okay.
So if the $1 million movie makes $10 million, it pays for their,
Right.
they make money,
Right.
instead of being in student debt,
Oh, that's great.
Something
That's
I'll
great.
probably go back to down the line, but I'm just
Yeah.
really focused on this book right now and the sequel to Dementia 13,
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your book. You mentioned it, but I didn't get enough out of you on that. What is the book about?
The book's called Montauk Days, like Dayz.
Okay.
And it's based on a true story. It's, when I was 18, I drove to San Francisco from New York and got stuck there.
Okay.
And I ended up meeting Ken Kesey, like Tom Wolfe's book, The Electric
Okay.
Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Yeah.
Ken Kesey, who wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Wow.
That Ken Kesey.
Okay,
And,
that can kiss you. Okay.
and the Merry Pranksters. So my
Wow.
last night in San Francisco, I hung out with them. They did this play called Twister, a Ritual Reality at the Fillmore West. It
Okay.
was like a mind-altering, crazy experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I flew back to New York and to my hometown out on Long Island. I'm like, I can't stay here, So I
Yeah.
grabbed my surfboard and I hitchhiked to Montauk. With like a backpack, flip flops and my surfboard and like
Yeah.
$10, So that's where it kicks off. And it's
And what year is this?
1994.
Okay. All right. I'm
Yeah, so
picturing it.
it's like
Okay.
before cell phones, before
Yes. Yes.
It's like the tail end of when you could almost not get killed hitchhiking,
Yes. Yeah.
Almost.
Almost.
So the story spills out from there, but it's really just kind of a reflection on it's a total batshit crazy adventure. Big waves, big chances taken in life kind of thing,
Yeah.
but also like a lot of reflection, spirituality, and just self-discovery, introspection, It's cool. People are like loving it,
That's great.
But yeah, it's coming out June 19th.
June 19th. Okay. That's great.
This is it. Look, this is the cover.
Oh.
I'm doing like the final
Hold it
edit.
up. Wow. That's
Cool,
great,
right?
man.
Yeah. So the thing is that this manuscript, I started writing it when I was like 20.
Yep.
Finished it in LA, lost it for 20 years. And then my sister asked me about the book. And I'm like, it's gone. And she's like, no, it's not. I have a hard copy of your book.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what? I'm like, if you're kidding with me, I'm gonna kill you.
It's not
Like,
cool.
no.
It's not
Like,
cool.
no, Dan, I have a hard
Yeah.
copy of your book.
That's
So,
great.
yeah. So I, and that was like right before the pandemic, basically. So I just spent the pandemic trying to edit my 20-year-old self, which is a whole other story,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Those. So it's funny. I wrote a screenplay
Mhm.
mainly for therapeutic reasons. That was about my personal experience after divorce
Oh boy.
and kind of going down a spiral of
Mhm.
depression and drinking and all of that and what that goes through. That it's not a unique story, but something personal for me.
Sure.
But I found it very fulfilling. I found it, I felt great. And I was like, I really don't care if anybody ever makes this movie, but I felt great writing it. Do you have some kind of similar experience in that?
Um, with this one, I've had that experience on
Okay.
different screenplays that I've written, you know?
Okay.
With this one, it was like editor hat.
Oh, okay. Okay. I
Okay.
gotcha.
Like a producer, you know,
Yeah.
like a creative producer. And I'm like, this has to go. Like I cut 120 pages out of the original manuscript. I'm like,
Okay.
what was
Wow.
I thinking, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you're 20 writing a
Yeah.
book, it's like, what?
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I can't
So yeah, a
imagine.
little bit different, but at this point, um, and, you know, we have it out to like 150 people or so for like a pre-read,
Okay.
and that's since January. So everybody's finishing the book over the last couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
like the response has been phenomenal. Like I mean, these are half of them are strangers. I don't know them, you know,
Yeah.
and everyone's just there's not one bad like review, which is crazy.
That's great.
Yeah,
It seems like a ideal for movie, to get
yeah,
option for a movie because the 90s, that's the era, the coming of age, late teens, early 20s and 90s. Those folks our age now, there hasn't really been an iconic 90s movie yet.
this would be it. And
Right.
I'm not just saying that, but that's
Yeah.
like part of I'd say 90% of the feedback coming back is exactly what you just said,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is cool. Actually, we're already in talks with a company that wants to make it into a movie, but I'm like, let's wait until the book comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You have more leverage then for sure.
Well, it's not even leverage. It's just
Yeah.
like like we're working on pushing the book out, so
Yeah. Yeah.
there's time to the movie's not happening tomorrow, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thanks. Before we go, this has been great. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'd
Yes.
love to do a quick fire Q&A, something a
Okay.
little fun, and see how this goes. So lightning round, have a little fun. All right. What's your all-time favorite science fiction movie or TV show?
Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
Beautiful. That was the correct answer. No. Okay. Who is a filmmaker or producer in the sci-fi fantasy world that you really admire or who has influenced you?
I would have to say Lucas, you know, I'm come from that Star Wars kind of base,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I love Kubrick, you know, I mean, his stuff is great,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just did a show yesterday about A Clockwork Orange. We talked about that. It was a great conversation. What a
Brilliant movie.
a
Like that's
character.
one if it comes on the TV, even with commercials,
Yep.
you gotta just not go to work that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, if you could visit any fictional world or universe from a movie,
Mhm.
which one would you pick?
The cantina in Isley, which I recreated for a commercial we did for
Oh, really?
Samantha Bee.
Oh,
This was
yeah.
iconic. So when her show was coming out,
Uh-huh.
we produced a promo, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So Samantha Bee walks in to the cantina from Star Wars like a fumbling Jedi.
Oh my God, how did I miss that? I've got to find that on the internet.
Oh, it's awesome. That was a great day few days on set. It was like a bazillion-dollar commercial, right?
Yeah.
And so my day at the office was literally walking around all the characters from the cantina that we like had all made up, like guys who were like 10 feet tall,
That's incredible.
little people, you know. And that commercial played in front of I want to say it was maybe Phantom Menace, maybe.
Oh
But so
man.
like they played it in the movie theater before that next Star Wars movie
Yeah.
to fake people out thinking it would be the opening to the Star Wars movie.
Oh, that's great.
So cool.
That is great. I have to find that. I love the show. She's hilarious. So I have to
Yeah.
check that out. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to direct people to? Any kind of website or social media or anything you want to tell people about that they should go check out?
Yeah, well, everybody should check out the book because the book's coming out. So
Montauk
it's
Hayes.
Montauk Days, D-A-Y.
Montauk Days. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So on Instagram, it's Montauk, MONTAUK _ DAYZ.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Great.
from there, you could look at Pipeline Entertainment and all that other stuff. It's kind of a good
Great.
place to start.
All right. Well, thank you for doing the show, Dan.
Thanks for
Wish you
having
the best.
Same.
And we will stay in contact with you so we can learn how the book does and
Sure.
all your future projects.
Sounds good. And I kind of want to see that cartoon thing. Email it to me.
Okay, I will. You
Yeah, I'll
got it.
check it out.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks so much. I'll talk soon.
Okay.